That's right. He's with city officials giving us the update. I believe they are starting here very soon. It looks like they are walking up to the podium as we speak. You see Mayor Curry right there. Let's give them a moment to assemble, and we're going to listen.
Good afternoon.
Here we go.
Thank you for joining us for our second official briefing on Tropical Storm Nicole and the city's preparedness efforts. At the last report, Nicole was moving closer to the coast of Florida and is still expected to make landfall south of Duval County sometime very early tomorrow morning as a Category 1 hurricane. At this time, Duval County remains under a tropical storm warning. While overnight, Nicole's track shifted to the west and Jacksonville is now out of the cone, this does not mean we will not feel significant impacts from the storm. In fact, just moments ago, the National Weather Service asked that we make this very clear. Do not pay attention to the cone and where Nicole is headed. Instead, pay attention to the radar, forecasts, watches, and warnings for our area. The biggest threat to Duval County remains to be intense storm surge and flooding along the coast and along the St. Johns River. This, combined with bands of rain and strong winds throughout the storm, makes flooding in low-lying areas the biggest concern for our neighborhoods. We could see waves at the beach as high as 10 to 15 feet. Inland, we may see storm surge 3 to 5 feet above ground level. These conditions are expected even without a direct hit from Nicole, even with the latest shifts in the track. And with that shift, tornadoes are a much bigger risk for our area. The increased potential for tornadoes begins during the pre-dawn hours tomorrow, while many of you may be asleep. Please be prepared as possible and make sure you and your family have an emergency plan. Back to the beaches for a minute. Let me say this. I watched the local news this morning where reporters on the beach covering the storm saw people swimming in these extremely rough waters. Stay out of the water. I can't be clear enough. It's extremely dangerous and you're risking your life and the lives of those that would have to come and rescue you. All three of our beaches mayors join me in this important messaging. Because of the anticipated weather conditions, I have signed a declaration of a state of emergency in Duval County effective midnight tonight until this system and its effects have cleared Duval County. Earlier today, Duval County Public Schools announced all schools will be closed tomorrow because of the storm. In order to accommodate city employees with students in the Duval County Public School system, we are announcing that city offices will also be closed tomorrow, November 10th. Offices are already closed Friday, November 11th, in honor of Veterans Day. At this time, I'm also announcing the suspension of all garbage, recycling, bulk pickup, and yard debris collections for this Thursday. Friday will be collected as scheduled, and a makeup day for Thursday will be this Saturday. So again, if your usual pickup day for any of these services is Thursday, that will not take place this Saturday. Earlier this morning, the Chief Judge announced that Duval courts will be closed tomorrow and Friday. Also, the Jacksonville Fair announced yesterday it will be closed today and tomorrow, with plans to reopen on Friday at 3 p.m. Tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. we will open two shelters, the Legends Center and Landmark Middle School. Both shelters are open for those with special needs, the general population, and both are pet friendly. We do not expect evacuations, but we want to make sure shelters are available for those who are in need. Finally, if you have not already, now is the time to make sure you have your supply kit together, that you know your flood and evacuation zones. Also, with the heightened threat of tornadoes, now is the time to review your safety plan with your family. If you have yard debris, make sure it's cleared and not blocking storm drains. And now is the time to walk around your property and secure loose items. Yesterday, Public Works activated their inclement weather plan, and crews are out working today to make additional preparations. Our Director of Public Works, Steve Long, is here to address any questions you may have. Let me add something before I hand over the podium. The decisions made today are out of an abundance of caution. It's impossible to predict the exact impacts of Nicole will have on Jacksonville and our beaches communities, but we're making the best decisions with the information we have. What we do know is the weather event should be out of here by Friday morning, and Friday afternoon should shape up to be a nice day, leading into a beautiful weekend. In conclusion, remember, if you have any questions that are non-emergency related, call 630-CITY. Beginning at midnight tonight, lines will be open 24 hours, and extra operators will be available to handle any call volume. With that, I invite Chief Ellis Burns to talk about Jacksonville Sheriff's Office preparations.
Thank you, Mayor Curry. So we're fully staffed, ready to go, continuing to watch the the forecast as it's coming in, working with the National Weather Service. Everybody always thinks about the bridges, which is a good question. We'll monitor them closely. We're not so much concerned with the number, the mile an hour sustained wind until it gets to be about a minute or so, but we do take gusts into consideration as well. So we're working with FDOT on that to measure the wind speed at the bridges, and we'll closely monitor that and address them as needed. But other than that, is there any questions related to JSO? All right, thank you.
Any questions?
What is the possibility of evacuations down the line? They have already issued evacuations north of us, south of us. What about Duval County?
I mean, things could always change, but at this point, we don't have any plans to evacuate.
It's on the heels of Election Day, late in the season, kind of an unexpected storm that snuck out at us. Do you feel like Duval County is aware of the threat and is really, prepared for this?
Yeah, we're always prepared, and we're here communicating like we always do, and everybody's been working around the clock. So I just encourage people to continue to stay tuned to their local news so they know what's going on.
What's your message to people who maybe haven't been paying attention?
Pay attention.
Mayor, just a couple of questions. We're already seeing flooding around the city this morning. What areas are a particular problem? And then when I hear, 10 to 15-foot waves at the beach, what does that really mean? Is that going to cause damage? What can we expect?
Steve, I'll let you address.
Yes, thank you. Public Works, Steve Long. As far as for the drainage issues you're seeing already, they're related to the elevated tides. We have crews out working to make sure our drainage systems are open and in place so that we can drain as well as possible. With the elevated tides, we know that impacts the drainage systems. However, as the tide cycles go, the drainage will get better and better as we approach, into the weekend. We expect elevated tides on Thursday and going into Friday, but we're working hard to make sure those drainage systems are open so recovery happens as quick as possible. As far as for at the beach with the waves, that those waves are breaking. They're not coming over the dunes at this point, and it's something that'll just have to be observed as we move forward to see how to react. Thank you.
I know you're talking about the drains, but like I said, we're already seeing flooding like on Pottsburg Creek. It's gone way over. Is this going to be the problem, and is this going to get much worse, or what's going to happen throughout the day and tomorrow?
As Mayor Curry said, the National Weather Service has said that you can expect to see somewhere between 3 to 5 foot tidal increase over what we're experiencing at regular tide levels. So the flooding you're seeing now is as those tides start increasing, because they aren't going to come up in a matter of minutes. It's going to increase as we go through time, and so you're starting to see those increases occur. And then National Weather Service has said it could be up to 3 to 5 feet.
Are the pumps on in San Marco, and what's going to happen in Riverside along the new, at Riverside Park, not Riverside Park, Memorial Park? What are you anticipating there, and are they done with that work there?
Right now, our pump stations are all on. They're all working as need be. When water enters into the pipe system and reaches the pumps, they're on to evacuate that water. As far as for Memorial Park, if the tide gets up and it comes over the bulkhead into the park, you'll see flooding occur. And then as the tide goes down, as we go into the weekend, you'll see the water recede and evacuate.
And just one final question. Have there been any reports of any damage yet from this morning? Any homes flooded yet? Have you heard anything?
I have not received any reports of home flooding at this point, no, sir.
When it comes to the San Marco element, this is for Public Works as well. I know you have the lift stations, but you have the supplemental pumps from Ian. Are you going to be doing that again this go round?
Yes, ma'am. Those were set up already. It's in place so that we can do as much as we can to protect a very low-lying area that we know about in San Marco. So that's up and running. Yes, ma'am.
Are you guys anticipating this to be as bad as Ian or worse in town?
Based on the National Weather Service prediction of 3 to 5 feet, they say that could be a little bit higher than we saw in Ian, and so it's as we monitor and go forward, it'll just depend on how the storm how the storm approaches, the wind fields, that sort of thing, as it pushes that tide into the river.
For JEA, the winds yesterday, I know were not really storm related, but we had a lot of winds. what's standing now? Are there power outages? What's happening, and what are you expecting?
When I came over just a few minutes ago, we had one outage that was very small, and as the winds pick up, then we would expect to see the possibility of more outages. But we are prepared and have crews standing by, ready to respond.
Just one more thing to add. As the low-lying areas that we typically experience with flooding become flooded, Public Works does a great job of blockading these off, barricade them. I'm asking, please don't drive around it, don't drive through it. Do as the mayor said, stay off the roads of the wind. Do not drive in any areas that have standing water in them. And sometimes we see people move the barricades in the street that's closed off. People drive right through it. So we're asking, please don't do that. Just creates unnecessary.
Blocked off now?
Not currently that I'm aware of at this point, but we're working with Public Works to make sure that we have those intersections shut down as needed.
And for Mayor Curry, this is just one more question about the possibility of evacuations. With Ian, you told folks in Zone A, get ready.
Right.
Do they need to be ready if this is potentially
Yeah,
worse?
I mean, I think if people are in these low-lying areas that are typically prone to flooding, they ought to be alert. They ought to have an exit strategy. When we go through evacuation decisions, typically when you're looking at what could be a direct hit, you have a window of time where you have to make sure people, a direct hit, they're notified so they can get home from school, home from work, etc. We're not looking at a direct hit. Based on estimates from the National Weather Service, we know what event we could be facing. If you're in those areas that are prone to flooding, you ought to be alert and prepared. Thank you.
And there you just heard from Mayor Curry along with other city officials talking about the preps here, of course, for Nicole, mentioning that they are opening 2 shelters, the Legend Center and Landmark Middle. If you maybe live in a low-lying area and you don't want to stay in your house, if you're nervous about flooding, you can go to those shelters. He also mentioned that those of you that get your garbage picked up on Thursdays, that will now be on Saturday as well. And Duval County Public Schools is closed along with city offices tomorrow.
We've been down this road before countless times, right? And he did mention to make sure that you are prepared just in case. That's the biggest thing, is to always be prepared. Now, something I want to note, because we've heard Robert Spett, our meteorologist, mention this before, is the mayor just said don't pay too much attention to the cone itself. Instead, the wind field. That's an important thing here. Robert, as I mentioned, you have said this time and time again. We're watching the watches, the warnings. That's what we all need to listen out for, and the wind field as well, because this is expected to be pretty much far-reaching when it comes to Nicole.
Yeah.